This is a weird thing for me to say because, horror is my favorite genre, but I don't have a favorite horror film. So let's talk about that. It's weird, of course. A lot more people will be like, "This is my top 10 favorite horror films of all time," but it's like, but, but horror films are hard to define a lot of the time, and then there are so many, and so some of them are so good. And the problem is for me too is a lot of them I've seen once only, and there are obvious ones that I love because I've seen more than once, but there are ones I love because I've seen only once. But it's like, can I really say that they're my favourite if I've only seen them once? So I've written down a list of horror films that I really like. This isn't all of them because, of course, hell, I don't even think I have Bride of Frankenstein on this list, and that's a horror film. Because sometimes I compare horror films, which one scared me the most. A lot of these didn't, actually. In fact, I don't think maybe 3 did. Arguably 6 of these films did. So let's take a brief look at all of them. I have 26 written on my list. It's pretty crazy. Some of them I don't even think you can consider horror films. They might just be more thrillers, if anything. So let's see. We've got. We'll start with Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a lot of famous ones which I also really hate because I'm like, oh, does it count? Because a lot of these are really popular ones and a lot of people really know these. I do have ones people don't know, but it's beside the point. Everyone knows a film, most likely for some reason. Like one of these films which I feel like is the most obscure is only because I know I've seen it. I doubt you've seen it, but at the same time, you've probably heard of it because of another thing that came out recently about it, pretty much. So let's start with Nightmare on Elm Street. I really like the franchise. I don't really have much to say on all of them. I really like the first one, of course. The first one's a great horror film, and I really like the third one. The third one is fantastic, which I sometimes think I prefer over the first one because the second one, the fact that they're like, oh, it's dream logic, let's do dream stuff, and it just makes it so surreal, and I love it. Of course, Wes Craven's New Nightmare is also fantastic. But I like them all. I should probably rewatch them all, but I'm very sure I've watched them all at least 2 years ago, so it's like, I think I should give it some more time. Here's one I'm thinking of, off the bat of my head. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I haven't seen any of them except for the first one. I like the first one. I don't think it's a great film. I've liked it enough. I'm not going to give any of these star ratings. Don't do that to myself. I've only seen it once, and that was at the Astor in 35mm because Tobe Hooper had passed away a few days earlier, and they did a special screening. My first time at the Astor, I still remember it because I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the end of my, literally, it was the first Tuesday that I was meant to get paid for my job. I had $16 in coin in a red bag, and I brought it there, and that's how I paid for my ticket. And it was me and my friend Guy who invited me to come along. We sat there in the auditorium, and then three empty seats in front of us, 3 people filled them up. One of them was a high school friend, and we caught the train home, and it was great. And I thought the film was pretty cool. I liked it in 35mm. I wouldn't get it on Blu-ray. I don't care if it looks better on Blu-ray. I like the 35mm look. It made it look and feel really just old and creepy, and I loved it. But I wouldn't call it a favourite horror film. Day of the Dead? Arguably so, yes. I really like it. It's probably my favourite zombie film. I mean, I don't really think there's much to say about that. I haven't seen Dawn of the Dead, but I really like Day of the Dead. I like the isolation factor. I love the opening scene, the music, the characters who go crazy, bringing the zombies, and, making their brains work properly. Everything about it is great. Look, I love Night of the Living Dead, and I even like the Color remake as well. And I unfortunately have just never seen Dawn of the Dead because it's really hard to get. This is one that's a bit obscure. The Haunting from 1963. You might know it from the most recent The Haunting of Hill House, which is on Netflix. Who did that one? It was that guy, he just did Doctor Sleep. Jesus Christ, how do I not remember his name? Mike Flanagan, I really like. He's probably my favorite horror director right now. He's just done great work. His Gerald's Game was fantastic. I love The Haunting of Hill House, and I really want to make a Blu-ray collection of his stuff, and I think Haunting of Hill House is finally coming out on Blu-ray. If not, it's just DVD, and that really pisses me off. Not a film, but I love it anyway. And it made me watch the original 1963 version, and the 1963 version is so well done. The atmosphere, the special effects, it's terrific. 28 Days Later, another favourite zombie film. I only ever watched it this year. I like the feel of it. I like the way that they do it. It's the same as the Day of the Dead in a way. It's just all isolated. Everything about it is just great. But this one is like, oh, if you don't know what zombies are, here's a thingy. We'll make our own origin of it with fast zombies and stuff. It's pretty good. It's decently shot given that it's on digital, but that urban effect looks pretty good for it. It's got some great actors in it. It has one hell of a final act. Christopher Eccleston is great in it. Yeah, I don't mind the sequel either. The sequel's not bad. A bit too special effects. Oh, well, not special effects heavy, but more of. I mean, the zombie films, of course, they're special effects. Spectacle heavy. You know, look at this helicopter chopping off all the zombies into pieces. Oh my god, how cool is that? Yeah. Train to Busan. That's a pretty good one. Fright Night from the Tom Holland's one from the 80s. I love. It's my favorite vampire film. Actually, I do have a favorite zombie film that isn't Day of the Dead, and that is actually further up on the list. But still, I think as a full-on horror zombie film, Day of the Dead is probably my favorite. Train to Busan is a close second. Actually, it probably is my second favorite horror zombie film. Again, only one that I've watched once before. Same as I've seen Day of the Dead, I think twice. Suspiria from 2018. Is definitely on my list of one of my favorites. I love Guadagnino's interpretation of the original, the whole remake aspect of it. I love it. It's very different to the original, but I like the postmodern effect to it instead of it being giallo horror. And I still love the original Suspiria is on my list as well. I love both of them. I like a lot of Argento's work. I even have a collection of them. Deep Red I like as well. Not as much as in Suspiria for pretty obvious reasons, but at the same time I still really like Deep Red. I think it's probably definitely his second best film, if not his best film, because Suspiria, fuck it, they're both terrific. And I like Inferno as well. I haven't seen Mother of Tears. I have it. Strangely, I have it on DVD. I haven't seen it yet. And Bird of the Crystal Plumage I have as well. I hope to get like Tenebrae and a whole bunch of others, but I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm kind of just trying to restrain myself from buying until I watch more films instead. So that's my spiel on Argento, who I actually studied this year in class. It's great. I'm doing a 2,500 word essay on him and Sergio Leone. It's terrific. I love it. Houseu, Nobuhiko Obayashi. It's a 1977 film, one of my favourites from 1977. I've got a lot of favourites from 77. It's a great Japanese horror film. It's so fantastic. It's Evil Dead 2 on steroids because it's Japanese and it's crazy as hell. It's probably not overtly scary, but it definitely has very obvious horror. It's definitely very much a horror film to the point that someone gets eaten up by a piano. It's great. I highly recommend it if you can get your hands on it. Hell, I recommend all of these. They're all great films. Little Shop of Horrors. I've still yet to see the director's cut version where you see the actual plants take over, but damn, I've seen the theatrical cut a lot and I love it. Definitely my favorite horror musical. I mean, look, Anna and the Apocalypse, which came out last year, was pretty good too, but Little Shop just has a feel to it that's just so perfect for it, really. Yeah. Would highly recommend. I feel like the director's cut I prefer more just because I like the more nihilistic ending. Another 1977 favourite, Eraserhead, in my top 10 favourite films. Weirdly experimental horror film. Obviously David Lynch's directorial film debut as a whole. And it is a very, very strange film. I've seen it a few times now. Given in the past 2 years I've probably seen it maybe 5 or 6 times. In theatre once, and in a class with... in my David Lynch club once at uni. That was great. I was in a David Lynch club at uni, yeah. Why not? Carrie, from 76. Of course, the Brian De Palma version. I really like it. I watched it as a kid. When I was growing up, it scared me, and I got the Arrow remaster, and I love it. I think I've seen it twice in the past few years now as well, since I got it, and it's a great film. I was about to say it's my favourite Stephen King film. Ha 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 ha. That's not true. It's my second favourite. It's probably the most direct of his that I like, because obviously the other one, which you could probably guess which one it is, he's not as direct, but I don't read his books, so I don't really care. Jaws, I have on this list. It's weird. I consider it more of a thriller, but at the same time, it has enough horror elements. I put it back to back with Jaws, with Jurassic Park. If you want to see me discuss that more thoroughly, I have a video where, I don't know if it's out yet, it might come out after this, where I talk about, I feel like this should be saved to the end, to be honest, where I talk about Spielberg films, and are any of them horror? It's an interesting discussion where I look at his filmography and really discuss which ones of his are actual proper horror films and not, because he's never actually officially directed a horror film. So yeah, of course I talk about Jurassic Park and Jaws in them because they're probably his closest to horror films. So take a look. It's a good video, I think. I don't know, I ramble on for a bit. Halloween, the original, I've never really seen any of the sequels. I've seen H2O, didn't like it. I've seen the 2018 version. I liked it. But I feel like that's because it's a sort of rehash of the original, but of course being a direct sequel. And I like it. I wouldn't consider that a favourite, just because I feel like the whole legendary status effect of Michael Myers is just, I don't care about it that much. But yeah, no, Halloween, the original, I love. It's great. I've seen that a few times now as well. The Thing. This one is definitely in my top 10 if I were to have a top 10. John Carpenter's The Thing. Imagine if I was saying it was the 2011 version. You'd click off this video and dislike it to hell, wouldn't you? I've never seen that film. I don't want to. If I have to see it, it would be... I'd have to buy like the 2-pack, which comes with the first, which comes with the Carpenter and the prequel. Yeah, but I'm never gonna get it, so it doesn't really matter. As much as I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I'm never gonna get it, which kind of sucks, but still. Yeah, looking at classic horror, I like the Universal monster movies. I like Dracula. I think it's great. I don't think it's spectacular, especially because I guess the horror effect doesn't really work on us, but it's really interestingly done and quite fun. I love the Frankenstein. I've watched all the Frankenstein films, actually, which is fucking mental. I love Frankenstein. I especially love Bride of Frankenstein. I don't mind Son of Frankenstein. Can't remember what the hell the rest of them were. The Ghost of Frankenstein, I think, was one of them. That was a really stupid one. I did like when, of course, our favourite boys, Abbott and Costello, meet Frankenstein. I really liked that one. That was great. That's a fun one. Not exactly a horror, but definitely a comedy. It's terrific. But my favourite of all those Universal ones is actually Creature from the Black Lagoon. Ever so strangely, I just adore the creature. I love it. I don't know why. It's not a terrific film. I think Bride and Frankenstein and Dracula are easily better, far superior films. But I love Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's so fun. Going more into definitely more horror, I think, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. Hard to argue that it's not a horror film, given that the whole thing is horror elements off the wazoo. But it's so interestingly done, and it's really dark. I mean, obviously it's thematically dark and horrifying. Is it really a horror film? I'd still would say it is, yeah. But yeah, it's, of course, you can't really watch it without having watched the TV series that came before it, because this whole film spoils that. Even though it's a prequel, I mean, of course it's a prequel because it tells you who killed Laura Palmer, and you don't want to know that until you've watched the TV show, so... Yeah, the TV show isn't as dark and horrifying, and it has its dark and scary elements, especially the final episode of the second season, which is my favourite episode, and that gets crazy. But yeah, and the return, of course, is fantastic, so yeah. Then a film that actually genuinely scared me, which is, I feel, was really rare, because these days I don't get scared by horror films as much, which is like, why would you watch a horror film then if you're not going to get scared? Sometimes I like the fact that I'm not getting scared, okay? I like the surrealist aspect most of the time, because most surreal films are horror films, because you don't really get anything different. Ringu, or The Ring, depends on how you want to title it. I go with Ringu because it's, outside of it being actually Japanese, it is the actual name of it, and I like it. I've only seen it once, surprisingly. I saw the 4K remaster a few months ago, and damn, that's got a tense-ass, scary-ass atmosphere. Oh, it's good. It's good stuff. Highly recommend it. Obviously, Suspiria from '77 I've got here. Hereditary. I do like Midsummer. Wouldn't consider it as much of a scary horror film, just like The Wicker Man. I don't consider it that scary, so horror films, yeah, and good films, yeah, but scary, nah. Like, I was smiling for the majority of Midsummer just because I was, like, really enjoying it. Hereditary, I was petrified. It's one of the only theatre experiences where I have been genuinely shit scared. Outside of watching Prometheus, but that was because I really expected it to be an alien film, and that never really happened, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, Hereditary, balls to the wall, good movie. A film that I've recently actually talked about, I don't know if it's definitely before this one, and it has its own video of my thoughts on, is The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's 1981 film, which I would definitely call a very good, very tense horror film. Beautiful atmosphere. Definitely would be one of my favorite horror films of all time. It's just great. It's great stuff. Yeah. I do have a video on it and the second film as well, so feel free to check that out, probably in the description or in this horror playlist. Next up is my actual favourite horror zombie film, kind of. Day of the Dead still reigns, but Shaun of the Dead, because it's a comedy as well, just kind of like a zombie apocalypse backdrop. It's not exactly a zombie, like, it's a zombie horror film, yes, but like, it's a comedy romance film first, really, when you look at the core of it. And I love it. It's great. I don't want to compare it to the rest of the trilogy because a lot of people say Hot Fuzz is better, and I probably think so too. Maybe on a film level, it probably is. I don't know. I just really like Shaun of the Dead. It's probably just because of nostalgia, and it's just my favorite film of the trilogy, and it was my favorite film for a long number of years. To the point that it still scared me when I first saw it, because of course zombies ripping a guy to pieces. Why wouldn't it scare me? That shit always scared me when I was below the age of 12. Of course, I wasn't meant to be watching it, but at the same time, my dad was showing it to me. So at the same time, it's like, was I not meant to? Jury's out on that one. Next up, this would, if it would be, probably be my top 3 favorite horror films. Number 3 would be The Shining. I love The Shining. Oh my god, I want the 4K remaster. I love it so much. I don't care if it's long. I love it. It's so good. It's just so... So The Shining is just terrific, and I love it. And fuck you if you haven't watched it. But I mean, I got pissed off when my best friend watched it without me. I'm like, you were watching one of my favorite horror films without me. But yeah, no, it's good. It's just, I don't even care about the crazy interpretations of how messed up and weird all the thingies are. And, oh, is it a dream? What? I see a ghost. I don't care. Because it's just great. It's so well done, and I love it. It's my favorite Kubrick film. Which is saying something, because that Barry Lyndon film is terrific. Second favorite horror film of all time, which this is why I have a whole video about it with its first film, The Evil Dead 2. Dead by Dawn. Okay, Evil Dead 2 is my second favorite horror film, probably of all time. As much as I feel like the first one has more of a horror strength to it, because the second one is actually a horror film, I love it. And I love it more because of the slapstick and the iconic moments and the groovy and all the lines and everything. It's great. And I absolutely adore the film. I prefer it over the first one only by a minute level, because the tone of the... I've done a video on it, but like... And I suggest you watch it. It's a bit of a long video, but it's an interesting dissection of the two films and kind of comparing them and contrasting them. But I prefer the second one. I feel like it depends on my mood. If I want a good horror film, like a tense, atmospheric horror film, I go with the first one. If I want a film that's fun, I can lay back, relax, enjoy it. It's got scary moments, but overall, it's fun, it's goofy, and I can always enjoy it. I go with Evil Dead 2. And, okay, yeah, definitely my number 1 horror film of all time. This should be obvious if it wasn't, given it's my 3rd favorite film of all time. Where Have You Been? Alien. Obviously. This film gave me nightmares for 10 plus question mark years. I love this film. I love the franchise. I love all the films. Except for the Alien vs Predator ones. I don't like to talk about those movies. I don't mind the first one. I don't like the second one. But yeah, Alien itself, perfect film. One of the only films I would call a perfect film. It's definitely the scariest film of all time. I'd argue Evil Dead. The Evil Dead is probably the second scariest film of all time. Just in my mind, that's how it is. Because of course Evil Dead 2 has the problem of the comedy aspects, and I mean, hell, The Shining would probably be maybe the third scariest film of all time, but I mean, I've never really gotten scared. Wednesday, okay, did that scare you? No, it didn't scare me either, but it scared a lot of my friends. We screened it in like year 12, I think it was like our film, one of the two films we started in year 12 media. I can't remember what we started it with, but it doesn't matter because Wednesday, right at your face. It's great stuff. So yeah, this is my kind of, I don't have a favourite horror film, but I obviously do, it's clickbait. I don't have a favourite horror film, and here's why. I don't know if that'll do better than top 10 favourite horror films, but I mean, let's be honest. So yeah, feel free to comment your top 10 favourite horror films. I like to see different horror films. I like to get suggestions too. I love horror. If you have ones that are really obscure, even if they're... I don't like torture porn or gore porn. Like, if it's something like cheesy, like Evil Dead with its gore, I don't mind. But if it's like Saw... yeah, nah. So yeah, outside of that, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more if you want to see more of this horror. This is the last of the horror October videos. I might be filming more after today, but for the most part, this is pretty much all I'm planning. This is the last release for the horror Halloween October month videos. So yeah, feel free to check them all out in the playlist somewhere there. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff on this channel, like my actor reviews playlist, short films, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one. Please don't hesitate to comment. I like talking about movies. Bye. I'm gonna go to bed now and have nightmares.